Today's episode is brought to you by Dr. Jeffrey Halstead, DMD. Dr. Jeffrey Halstead has been Canandaigua's hometown dentist for more than 35 years, offering routine dental care as well as cosmetic dentistry, implants, and dentures by their highly trained and experienced staff. Visit them online at canandaiguadentistry.com or find them on Facebook and Instagram. From FingerLakes1.com, this is FLX Today, and we are talking with Mark Brown and Nicole Fragnino about a state historical marker that was dedicated over the weekend in Lodi, Seneca County. Mark serves as Lodi historian and Nicole a research historian and grants reviewer for the William G. Pomeroy Foundation. Thanks to both of you for taking the time today. First things first, before we get into the specifics of the marker and dedication, how long does a process like this typically take from start to finish?
The application period is about a month long, I think, Nicole, is it right? And then we wait and get feedback from the William G. Pomeroy Foundation as to what else they might need.
Gotcha.
I imagine, and then sometimes they're very kind to allow us to an additional time if we need it. What would you say about that, Nicole?
Absolutely. So once it gets to us for review, me and the other research historians and grant reviewers, it really depends on how prepared the application is and how many primary sources are available to verify everything that the applicant would like to put on the marker. So it can take up to a few days for us to complete our review, or like Mark said, we do provide extensions of 30 days. So it can take about a month or so to wrap up all of the final details. But overall, it's a very quick process.
That's very interesting because I actually, coming into this, was thinking the exact opposite, that this must take a very long time. Was this a fairly typical process for you guys? Just fit into the rest of them pretty quick and everything reviewed and checked out in short order?
It was difficult for Silas Halsey because the document that I knew that was really the most important was in the town of Ovid minutes, which I was told existed and we just could not find. And so it was very hard to find primary sources for him. Luckily, we found this letter that his son had written, and we also found the deed. But it was kind of hard. Plus, I was a newbie at the experience, and so I was really learning my way as well.
So, Mark, to that end, give us a little background on Silas and how this information came to you, and then the moment that you realized that we can get this thing across the finish line.
Well, I grew up in Lodi, although I lived away for a while, but I've lived here, and Silas Halsey has been a kind of an iconic name in Lodi forever. He was one of the first people to actually have a home built in the village, and it is still there. And his story begins much further back. He was living in Southampton, Long Island. Oh, well, let me take one step back. So when I was given the job of town historian, Kyle Barnhart, our supervisor, said, "Okay, I'm going to give you an assignment. We don't have any markers here in Lodi. Could you try to suggest some places where we could have a marker?" So Silas Halsey and Lodi Point were two of the first ones that came up. And so I started looking into Silas Halsey. It turns out that he had a home in Southampton, Long Island, and was basically run out by the British after the Battle of Brooklyn. He took his young family with they had literally nothing at that point. They left their fine home and went to Connecticut. And his wife died not too long afterwards, and he went back finally to Southampton, and eventually he decided he had become a doctor. He had decided that he was going to buy land up here, and he bought land from a Mr. White, I believe, who had gotten it as bounty land. So he bought all of lot 37, which is a full mile square, and he started his trip up here in 1792. To get to here from Long Island, you had to go up the Hudson River, and then when you got to Albany, you traveled across land to the Mohawk River, and you carried your boat, and then you went on down there until you had to carry again to Oneida Lake, through into another river, and then finally into the Seneca River, into the head of Seneca Lake, and then he traveled down to what was called Cooley Point. At Cooley Point, he planted some crops with two helpers, and he built a small cabin. And that was the start of it. He went back that summer, the end of that fall, and then the following year he brought his family, and some relatives, 18 people, I think it was said. And he brought them up here and then finally built the house that we know today.
And after that, there was, obviously that isn't where his story ended. What role did Silas play sort of in that early history of what we now know as South Seneca?
Well, he built a sawmill, which was very important at the time. And then he started taking the lead in government, in representative jobs. At that first time, Lodi was part of Ovid, which was a part of Herkimer County. And he became one of the first judges in there. And then he was involved with the process of splitting off the counties to Onondaga, then to Cayuga, and then to Seneca. And he was pretty much the first of everything. The first the first county supervisor, the county clerk, the first town supervisor. The first meeting for the town of Ovid actually happened in his home. He was really the first of everything. He was a part of the New York State Senate and House of Representatives, and he was a part of the convention. They were working on drafting some proposals for the state constitution, and he was a member of the Senate representing New York State under the administration of Thomas Jefferson.
Incredible stuff. Nicole, a couple questions for you as it relates to the Pomeroy Foundation. One, how often are folks getting in contact with the foundation for this effort to get a historical marker placed? And at any given time, how many are you guys kind of moving through the process at once?
So we have 7 signature marker programs, and this marker was through our New York State Historical Roadside Marker Program. And for this one, we have a grant round schedule that's based on different regions of New York State. And so for any given time, all of us reviewers have anywhere from 6 to 12 active applications that we're working on. And so it's an incredible amount of people that are interested in commemorating community history, and the level of enthusiasm when people reach out to us is just wonderful and keeps us going.
Very cool.
How many markers do you sponsor each year, Nicole?
That depends. We can reasonably get out quite a few. Over the course of our time since we were first founded in 2005, we've funded over 2,000 markers nationwide. And that number keeps growing as we continue to expand our programs.
That's awesome.
The cost, Josh, you should know, is $1,500, which the William G. Pomeroy Foundation pays for everything. They pay for the pole and the marker, and they pay for everything. It's really quite a wonderful group.
Which for a small community like Lodi obviously is important, where every dollar has to be accounted for. Mark, for someone who might be traveling through Seneca County, through the southern part of Seneca County, maybe they're looking for some of these historical places. as the local historian, what are a couple spots in Lodi that you would recommend for anybody who maybe they're stopping at a few wineries or breweries and they want to see a couple historical sites? What are a couple cool spots to see in Lodi?
The Silas Halsey is the only New York State historic marker in the town. There are markers along what we call Upper Lake Road, which are from the Sullivan Clinton campaign. As you travel south into Schuyler County, there are quite a few more. And when you travel north along 414, you will find more. But Silas Halsey is the only one in Lodi. But we have another one coming soon. We're going to be dedicating another marker this summer, later this summer at Lodi Point. If I hadn't had the help of Nicole, I probably would have given up because finding the stuff that you need is very, very hard.
Turns out finding things from 200 plus years ago is a bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
In any variety. Thanks, guys. Appreciate the time today.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks again.